Alright guys, so here on Sunshine Coast today at MXRP, I got the workshop here behind us, obviously the race truck. So we, as the season gets closer, slowly dialing in the suspension settings and stuff. Dan's doing my engines, ignition, dynoing, suspension, the whole deal this year. So thought it'd be cool to give you guys a bit more of an insight, actually talk to Dan himself a little bit today and sort of show you what we're doing, what specific stuff he's been doing for me. So we're currently up to my second, I've been riding on my second setting with Dan. First one, we were like, yep, let's just go. He said, go ride it, get used to the bike, get used to it, and then come back and we'll make some changes. So initially really liked the feel, but it was just too soft, wasn't enough hold up. I was blowing through. Second setting, definitely doesn't blow through as much now, but I still felt like it was sitting a little bit low in the stroke, and then as we get onto racetracks and stuff, it was bouncing around a bit. So today, getting a stiffer setting again, and then also going to start putting a bit more of a race spec motor package together. I guess we're not actually going inside the engine, but we got a Vortex. Dan's got dynos here, so we're going to play with that, get the Vortex to what I want, like move the power around to where I want, I should say. Also, we got the HDS pipe, so I'll bring my standard pipe along, and we're going to dyno them back to back. Just make sure that we've got the best package possible coming into the season. But yeah, we'll get in here and I'll show you a little bit about his setup, so it's pretty awesome in here. Okay, so first up, rip the suspension out of the bike. Dan's here in the suspension department, getting it all sorted for me. We've just been talking a little bit about what I want. Just explained to him that I pretty well have gone a lot of the way in on the fork clickers, fork and shock actually, just compression to try to get the thing to hold up a little bit more. Like I said, the initial setup was blowing through a little bit. Second setup, got rid of that sort of blow through feeling, but I felt like it was sitting down a little bit lower. But then Dan just said, because I'm all the way in, the bike's probably not quite freed up enough, I guess. But so I was just gonna, obviously he's here working, but we'll just annoy him a little bit. So like what were you saying with the, like me being all the way in, that's pretty well just...
well, we've got a certain, amount of range on your adjusters.
Yeah.
So most of the time, like when we're trying to set these bikes up, we're trying to give everyone some room to move, either stiffer, softer. So we're trying to put everyone on a base setting, so they got room to move on those in the middle of the range of the adjusters. So with you going in on your adjuster, in terms, yes, it's going to stiffen the bike up, but it's also going to make it a little bit twitchier. It's not going to allow that fork and shock to quite move as nicely as it would with your adjuster out. So that's why we come back, we make our internal changes so that we can get your adjuster back out to that mid-range. And in turns, what that'll do is it'll give you that bit more hold up you're looking for, but it's also going to free the action of the fork and shock up a bit. So in turns, we're not trying to go a hell of a lot stiffer. We're trying to get the fork and shock to hold up, but still have that nice movement. Still watch that fork and shock move, up under the guard. The wheels move up under the guard nicely across the bigger bumps, but keep good feeling. Like feeling's huge on any bike. If you don't have feeling, your adjuster's in and your front end's getting twitchy, it's more than likely you're losing confidence. So it's time to come back, reset it, and move again.
Yeah, which is exactly what I say. Like, you guys know, every time I bloody talk about not feeling good, I'm always exactly what Dan just said. It's just I don't have that feel in the front end. As soon as I don't have front end feel, I just go slower. So like, I think that's pretty spot on. I've honestly, like I said to Dan, I was pumped with the suspension we already had, but he's just confident that if we do stiffen up and allow the bike to free up in more that midpoint, then it is just going to work better again. So I'm pretty pumped with that, because obviously if I'm already happy, then that's just going to be better again. But yeah, so we also just spoke about, like I've said to you guys before, I'm only 64 kilos, which on a 450, at sort of the speed I'm starting to go, is a little bit tougher. So Dan just sort of said to me then that I'm running the same sort of fork springs as Kirk was running last year. So Dan did a lot of work with Kirk Gibbs last year on Factory Honda. So gave him, I guess they had the whole year to figure the bike out, and he said, I'm actually on the same springs, did you say?
Yeah, you're a rate down from him, obviously pretty close. The reason being, with these 450s, and the thing you have to understand is there's going to come a fine line where the rider weight and the bike weight plays a part. So for instance, if we were to go from the scientific approach and put in the springs that they say are correct for your weight, you're going to have the bike ride low on the stroke, you're going to have front end dive issues. So for us, being that you're a pro rider, it's quite important to make sure that the fork is going to hold up, it's not going to dive, you've got a heavy crank in there, a heavier bike than say a 250. So for me, there's like a rule of thumb for us of spring rate that we don't drop under for anyone on a 450.
Okay.
For yourself, being that you're pro rider, you're still quite light, we can run that spring rate that's in terms a little heavy for you and manipulate it through our valving. So that's how I find we tend to have a tendency to get the bike to work better than as opposed to go right down the road of having the exact set fork springs for you and the shop spring. I feel like front end's quite important on these bikes. As I just said, front end feeling's quite important. Sometimes having a setup that's too soft, guys can get confused with it being too stiff because they ride too low, there's too much pressure on the springs, or it can be the other way around. If they're too heavy and there's too much valving, they can be quite twitchy and quite uninspiring in the front end. So I find that having, you know, a solid front end will obviously make things work better. It will stop the action and the seesaw of the bike. It just allows this bike to be consistent and balanced, if that makes sense. So,
yeah, definitely. Perfect. So going to get that sorted now. As soon as Dan's done with this, going to throw it in the bike, get the thing cleaned up, we'll get it on the dyno. Dan's going to play around with the vortex settings and stuff, like I said, and we'll try to go in a bit of depth with that as well. I know you guys are pretty keen to see sort of what goes into the race bike build. So for me, this is my race bike, so we're going to build it up, and obviously close to the season, so we're going to dial it in now and be ready to go in 3 weeks' time.
I want the bike to be really tuned well. You know, a bike at 60 horsepower that's tuned really bad will feel terrible to ride. You know? But a bike at 55 tuned really well will feel smooth, strong, it'll have good throttle response, it'll be there when you want it. So that's what we're looking for. There's not many guys these days that are chasing a hell of a lot of power. You know, these things are getting so fast. You know, we're looking to change a power curve or just smoothen them out, make them a little bit broader, stronger. Yeah, you know.
And you can eliminate engine braking a little, hey?
Yeah, through ignition timing.
Yeah.
We can. Yep. Little things like that when you're, you know, say wide open down to the first corner at Harvey Bay, for instance, and you go from like wide open throttle and you're backing off, like, and it's right down onto like zero throttle or something, or very low, we can take some ignition timing out there, which in turns will take weight off the front of the bike too. So something like ignition timing will do that, and also changing your front sprocket size does that too. So little things like that,
Right, full stock base run done, standard pipe, standard ignition. We've done the 3 runs. Dan said he does minimum of 3 runs to make sure you get an average. Now I've got the HGS pipe here. I'm going to chuck it on next and overlay that for you. I'm interested to see, because like I said in previous video, when I put the pipe on, it made a big difference. I felt it. Felt like there was way more over rev, so I'm actually keen to see if what I feel is what the dyno shows up. But yeah, we're going to chuck that on now and show you what we got.
substantial difference. But I would sort of say from, here we are, 7,250 RPM, it starts to really creep on, really open up. And then obviously that over rev you're talking about, you feel is there. That definitely shows that it is.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, this is
Yeah, okay,
pretty
that's
good
cool,
data.
yeah.
I would say
That's a pretty big difference, isn't it? Yeah.
it's a thumbs up for the HCS system in my eyes. Like it's a decent, solid system to put on
Yeah.
the CRF 450.
So far we've done space run on the stock ignition, stock pipe, and these are the numbers up here. So the blue top file, that's the standard, and then we chucked a HES on, and that's the red file there. Made a big difference, like 2.3 max horsepower by looks. And then Dan said as well, like if you just look overall, it's rare that you'll get, or it's good when you get a line that follows and it beats it the whole way along. So as you can see, it matches and then follows the reds beating. As you get up top, it really, you really notice the difference there.
For instance, if we want to get rid of our stock run, and we'll just overlay basically the HCS system with a standard ECU and a Vortex ECU, this is what we've got. So this run here is our HCS with the Vortex. So you can see loses a touch of over rev there. Obviously extended RPM, but the best thing about this now is this is all super tunable. So we can go through here. We can start looking at our fuel, our ignition timing, and start making changes. Basically get it to suit this HCS system, custom map. So
Yeah.
it's really good. To still see an improvement with a map that hasn't been developed for it's a good thing.
Yeah,
So,
perfect.
yeah. But yeah, it just goes to show peak number doesn't mean everything all the time. We're only 0.2 of a horsepower at peak up, but look like we're pulling so much more. So let's say, for instance, we're pulling 55 horsepower at 8,600 RPM with the custom map on the Vortex. You're not making that until you're up at 9,200 RPM on the standard ECU.
Yeah,
So
big
little
difference.
Things like that is that you start to see the increase is quite big. You're looking at exactly a horsepower to that range, which is quite noticeable. So
Yeah, definitely.
then that's usable power. Like this is all a range where you're going to ride the bike. Even this here. If you're where this thing's starting to sign off, you're not riding a 450 here. It's not necessary. You really want to use the torque of a 450. So between these areas where we are making those changes and that, gain, I guess, if that's what you want to call it, that's where it's usable power. That's the tuning.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Tuning the ECU smart. Tuning the
Yeah.
bike smart. So
But if you do think about it, even just like relation to just thinking of how you ride, that would be about, like I'm just
Yeah,
looking at
that's right,
that to
yeah.
like the throttle sort
yeah,
of
it's,
thing.
yeah.
It's like that's about where you start, that's where you're using it. You're
Yeah,
riding
that's
that
where you
point.
want the
Yeah.
power. When you're coming into a corner in your third gear, if it's a little heavy and you want to be able to roll throttle on it, still pull you through there, that's where that's going to make a difference. Without losing momentum, tight corner, that third gear will roll and pull you through instead of lagging and not being able to carry momentum. So.
Alright, thanks for watching, guys. Bit of an update to finish this one off. So, got back, tested the suspension a little bit. It's now after round 1 of the Nationals, which we're hoping to have this video out before then, but hey, it is what it is, we got busy. But yeah, suspension, definitely at the start, it felt a little bit twitchy, a little bit stiff, like new suspension. You still got to play around with the clickers a little bit, and a few weeks on, I feel like it's really good. At the Nationals, I was super happy with the suspension. Made a few changes to the rebound, slowed it down a little bit, and yeah, I'm pumped with it. So my bike right now, super happy. Just need to keep working on myself. Obviously always make tweaks and stuff like that, but hopefully you guys enjoyed that bit extra insight into what goes into the suspension, what Dan does, the Vortex stuff. We didn't go into crazy detail, but it was cool for me even just to learn a little bit and see how much we actually have to play with there. So we didn't go right into the air mixture, air fuel mixtures and stuff like that, which Dan explained to me. That's where you can really tune the bike. So now that I've ridden it a bit with the Vortex, he's basically told me that if you want a little bit less at the bottom, like we can just adjust that like on the computer. You want a little bit more mid-range, we can do that just by playing with that air fuel mixture. So I'm actually thinking I'm going to try to mellow out the very bottom of the power a little bit, just because like I said, I am so light, and I find in the races I'm a little bit jerky in the corners, like sort of go boom and then back and then boom. So I think if I take a little bit of that initial hit away, it might make the bike just roll through the turns a little bit when I get a bit tired and a bit jerky. So super cool what you can do with that, and Dan's able to do it all through the shop. As you can see, it's pretty well a one-stop shop. You can do all the computer stuff, dyno work, suspension, engines, it's all right there. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the race day vlog.